is Unika Alexander. I am a scientist and the co-founder and CEO at the Proficient Lab, and I'm here today with my co-founder.
Hi, everybody. My name is Stas Levich. I'm the co-founder at Proficient Lab and the CTO. And my background has been in the government, where I spent quite a bit of a time taking archaic processes and bringing them to the 21st century, which is what we're doing with the Proficient Lab for the lab space.
So my background is actually in the medical laboratory space. So about 2019, 2020, I was hired by my fourth organization to optimize operations in the laboratory space. And what I found is that I had already done these processes from A to Z at 3 other places, and I found myself having to start from scratch at this new place. And this sparked this concept of, why can't this data be movable? Why can't we use data from one place and help it fuel innovation in another place, in a completely different organization? And this is what we've built. We have built the Proficient Lab, which is a decentralized electronic quality management system. And what that basically does, it allows data and people to move while allowing organizations to stay within the constructs of their regulatory bodies like FDA, CMS, ISO. So before I get into all of the things that we're doing, let's talk a little bit about what this quality management data is. And it is a depth of data. So we're talking about studies, processes, procedures, validations, efficiency testing. There is a lot of information happening from a quality management standpoint. And at this point, it is very much siloed. So quality management is required throughout the life cycle of life science laboratories. So whether you're in a research and development laboratory, whether you're going through clinical trials, whether you're in treatment and diagnosis for the public, these laboratories all require quality management systems, and they may be required by different organizations, meaning FDA or CMS, but they are required. And right now, if someone has information in R&D and that needs to follow the clinical trials through preclinical or phase 1, chances are, if it's moving from one organization to another, that information is lost, or it's going to have to be emailed or some other source of getting it from here to there. Same thing with treatment and diagnosis. When assays are developed, this has to go through assay development. And these types of information need to be provided to the laboratories that are going to use these assays for diagnosis and treatment. But the labs now have to rerun these validation studies and rewrite all of these procedures, because information cannot travel easily from one organization to another. So with this, there are quite a lot of issues that happen here. So what we see is that there's inconsistencies in qualities because of the lack of the ability to share information, to decentralize information and pass it along as needed. We see that in public health emergencies. We do have a grasp on how we could collaborate with our R&D information, but when it comes to quality management from a laboratory standpoint, there really isn't a system to pull this information together as needed. More on the ground, part of what really got me into this issue was that I had career-long repetition, and that's not just an issue with me. We've spoken to hundreds of our peers who have the same issue with repeating stuff in their career. And we look at the workforce challenges that we have right now in the medical space, where every time someone's hired, they need to start from scratch with what they know and what they don't know. Our system aims to allow these individuals to carry that career knowledge with them from one org to another. And as we look at R&D, this is an excellent tool for real-time collaboration. So this is all of the silos that we do not want with electronic quality management data that cannot be shared. So this is exactly what we set out to do and what we are doing. So we are a decentralized EQMS that allows, like I said, all of the regulatory requirements to be met. We have a very modular system that allows us to build not just for the medical laboratory space, but also as we get into R&D and pharma. That system allows for the building blocks for these types of processes in different types of life science laboratories. And again, this data is decentralized, so they can be shared across organizations and across sites in a seamless way. And we're able to do this because of some decisions that we've made. So in addition to our quality management system, we do have an AI component to our platform, and that is AI validation of tests. And the reason this is so important to us is that I have gone through validations of tests many times in my career, and it is a months, weeks to month long process. And it requires a subject matter expert like myself who has to inform individuals of what to do, who needs to look at data, analyze the data, who needs to troubleshoot and speak with the team about what the next steps are. And we do see an opportunity for AI to get in and remove the human from all of the smaller aspects of validating tests and validating processes. And this is necessary because as we look at science, science is about correlations. It's about linearity. It's about comparing data. And we see AI validation of tests as a necessary tool for our quality management platform. And because we do have an EQMS, we could now take that validation data, feed it through our EQMS, allow for approvals, allow for any type of distribution. And again, this information could be moved from one organization to another. And the reason we're able to do this so efficiently is because of the type of technology that we have decided to use. And I'll let Stas speak a little on that.
Thank you. It would be hard to argue that technological stewardship of a young company cannot be summarized by words capital efficiency, or maybe in simpler terms, doing more with less. With that in mind, the tech needs of a software as a service company, the Proficient Lab, can be divided in roughly three categories. Well, first being hosting infrastructure, second being business tools, and the third being development tools. When it comes to hosting infrastructure, Microsoft's Azure's scalable solution and the plethora of tools that are appropriate at different stages of development and growth as a company has allowed our technological expenditures to be commensurate with our technological needs and allow us to save a lot of upfront investment. Additionally, we're a company in the health space, which means that our own security and compliance is of utmost importance. We are HIPAA compliant. We're on our way to becoming ISO compliant. And I don't think I have to tell anybody here that going through these processes can be quite tricky. So building on top of a platform that's already fundamentally conducive to this kind of work has been a big leg up for us. Additionally, we're lucky enough to be part of Microsoft's Founders Hub, so there is some direct financial support in terms of infrastructure costs that we've been beneficiary of, which has been great. Business tools, I think, is an aspect that is often overlooked when it comes to kind of the holistic health of a software company. I happen to think that internal inefficiencies have a nasty way of having external consequences when you least expect it. So we at TPL do our best to embrace the myriad of the ever-growing roster of Microsoft tools to ensure that we're more efficient. Ourselves more efficient, our colleagues are more efficient. Anything from Microsoft Word that hopefully everybody knows and loves, and to the new shiny things as Copilot and everything in between, Microsoft Dynamics and things like that. Additionally, we found that having business tools and the infrastructure tools under the same umbrella really cuts down on the managerial and administrative costs and time. Last, but in my opinion, definitely not least, is the software development tools. I think that's the beating heart of any software company. If I were to pick a single technology that's been the most beneficial, the most helpful to us in our success, it would be Microsoft Blazor Framework. In simple terms, Microsoft Blazor Framework is a framework that allows the backend and front-end code to be written in the same language. What that means in practical terms is two things. Number one, it promotes speed and quality of development by introducing reusability to a very high degree. And the second aspect is that it allows us to repurpose our resources where we save resources by reducing need for specialization in the areas that I just mentioned and repurpose them towards the areas that might need additional help. This is 2024. This tends to be an AI or LLM talent, and this is exactly where we at TPL went with our additionally freed up resources. Speaking of AI and LLM, as Nika mentioned, AI has been and will continue being a big part of our strategic vision. And on that front, Microsoft's early investment in OpenAI and what I see as a continuing commitment to democratization of access to these rather advanced tools for the companies of any size has allowed us to start implementing our vision in a way that otherwise would be quite difficult. I think to summarize, our partnership with Microsoft has afforded us the level of robustness. This traditionally has been the domain of companies with much bigger rosters and much deeper pockets.
Wonderful. And because we're so robust, we're finding use cases already. So we have found use cases in the fertility space and the oncology space. So as someone who does come from the fertility space, my career has been in male fertility. Part of what affects fertility rates is correlations and morphology. And thankfully, we were able to take a system from a 0.3% correlation as their teams across the country are evaluating the morphology of oocytes and embryos and sperm cells. And we were able to take that from a 0.3 to a 0.8 using our system of collaboration. And that was amazing for them. As well as in the oncology space, we have been able to demonstrate our use with oncology networks who need to be able to provide the same standard of care across the country. And our system has been able to do that currently. We see ourselves in the future going into discovery from oncology, as well as just general R&D. Again, our system does allow for real-time collaboration, so we see a great opportunity there, specifically going from preclinical to phase 1. As most of you know in here, there is a huge drop in terms of getting just through that preclinical to phase 1 stage, I believe about 70%. And a lot of times, there are a lot of reasons that trials aren't able to get that far, but lack of documentation is one of them. And we're able to allow for anyone on our electronic system to carry that documentation with them, regardless of organization, and be able to lower those rates of drop-off. So that is one of our goals in the future, as well as public health emergencies. So we saw that during COVID, we were able to use GenBank and medRxiv to collaborate quickly to come up with vaccines. But we don't have a system to do that for quality management in the very laboratories that depend that are going to test for these, that are going to use these tests to provide patients with care. So our goal is to get to the level where in the next public health emergencies, there is GenBank, there is medRxiv, and there's TPL to help collaborate and make the process go more seamless. And with that, thank you very much.